Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hello and welcome to the Dork Forest. Let's try to knock this intro out in less than 4 freaking minutes. I'm Jackie Cation, JackieCation.com, DorkForest.com. Those are the websites. Let's do the credits. Mike Rickberg sang and composed the song you just heard. He'll sing again his words to the Mexican hat dance at the end of the program. Sarah Cohen sings with him. Patrick Brady's going to fix this audio. Vilmos does my website, JackieCation.com. There are many ways to support the show. Basic one, PayPal button. You click on it, you send me some money. Good for you. There's also, you can Venmo me at JackieCation.com. You can use the Amazon banner. There's a link on JackieCation.com and DorkForest.com that sends you to Amazon. You just order like normal. Doesn't cost you extra. It's just a way to support the show. Another way is to get merch. JackieCation.com has a merch page. A lot of Dork Forest stuff, a lot of stand-up comedy stuff. Also on the website, stand-up comedy calendar tells you where I'm going to be. This week I'm going to be in Vermont at the Vermont Comedy Club in Burlington, Vermont. So if you live near Vermont, you should totally come and see me do comedy there. There's premium episodes. The premium episodes are at thedorkforest.bandcamp.com, and they cost $2 a pop. The YouTube page is hopping. There's a YouTube page that has essentially the teaser clips and the full episodes now. And if you can't get iTunes or whatever at work, you can listen to the show in the background on YouTube. Let's get into the show. Hey, it's Jackie Cation. I'm on this ship, Joko Cruise, and I am with another guest of the ship, Anita Sarkeesian. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Here we are.
We're on a boat.
We are on a boat, and we're both half Armenian, and you're Canadian
I'm
Armenian.
full Armenian. How
you
dare you? My parents would be so mad at you right now.
Exactly. I'm very
Full.
right.
Generations back. There can't be any other. Even I'm
Right.
sure there was like an Assyrian somewhere in our timeline. But nobody wants to talk about that.
Nobody wants to talk about the weird Jews that pass through. Heaven forfend.
Yeah.
And though there's, it's so funny because, so you're really
Well,
no
I feel
Odars.
like
You're not.
I feel like half Armenians are such a rare breed because we are so incestuous.
It's
that, like,
super
it's super radical to be like, I'm going to breed with someone not Armenian.
Oh, my father he will play the field and has always enjoyed a nice Catholic lady. And
Orthodox all the way.
Right. Very nice.
It was basically the same thing. But
It's I have a terrible cousin who's dead now.
Good.
Do not mourn it.
Yeah.
Do not mourn the loss of Murad Jingosian, you guys. I'll name him.
You said the name, and it just made it more real. It was funny before then.
Murad Jingosian is a piece of work. My father's a piece of work, and I'm sure his children loved him and love him now that he has passed. But my Uncle Moose, and that's what we used to call him, because we're from Wisconsin.
Good.
And so Murad Jingosian, my dad's name is Elliot. His name is Murad. We used to call him Uncle Moron, and his kids used to call our dad Uncle Idiot. So it's
fabulous.
It's a fantastic Armenian. But Murad would always say that my brother Scott is blonde with green eyes. And it was because of the spice trade through Armenia back in the 12th century. And it's like, or our mother was Irish and her father had blonde hair and green eyes.
Or that. That's like a little too on the nose. It has to be the spice trade.
It has to be the spice trade.
All that cayenne pepper.
Exactly. Right. The cumin just passing through.
The allspice.
The cloves.
I was always like, is allspice a spice or is it many things?
Right.
Ooh.
It's so true though because
that's a bit. My mom cooks with allspice all the time.
I don't even. If it's
all the spices. It's a deceptive name.
It's so deceptive.
Because, like, what are all the spices? How many spices can be in allspice?
There's only one spice in allspice, and it's allspice. Just so you know, because I looked into it, because it's an irritant to me that it's called allspice. And this is a perfect thing.
It's
Anita
so
Sarkeesian,
deceptive.
you guys, first of all, you should know that the website is feministfrequency.com, and Twitter is @femfreak, FEMFREQ, or at Anita Sarkeesian, oddly enough.
Work.
And Sarkeesian is Sarkeesian, which is exactly how I would have spelled it, because phonetics. And Anita is spelled like Anita, it turns out.
It's weird how that works, right?
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, good.
Now, your dorkdom is weird foods. Or all food.
Well, just food in general.
Yeah.
I don't know. You're like, what are you a dork about? And like, so, okay, we are on a ship of dorks, which is the perfect place to record this podcast.
Oh, it really is. I could do 1,700 episodes of this.
I got stuck in a conversation yesterday. Well, I was adjacent to a conversation yesterday about the Star Wars fandom over time and the debate about the ebb and flow of Star Wars fandom. And like the facts that were pulled out to explain each position was just a level of dorkiness that you could only have on the Joko cruise. I love
the level of dork.
When you ask me if I'm a dork about anything, I'm like, well, what can I talk about with great detail? And I was like, nothing. I know a lot about I know a little bit about a lot of things.
Right. Which is literally the dork forest is mostly about enthusiasm and not about information.
Yes.
There will be a dork who is listening to this right now who will email me a 5-paragraph thing going, well, actually
Star Wars,
or whatever it is that we're talking about will give me the history of jazz. And
which I totally
appreciate.
I appreciate if it's presented in a non-internet-y way. It's in the not well actually way. If it's just like, hey, here's some information for you.
I actually love it when it's in.
You actually love the actually?
I genuinely love the actually way because it makes me happy. I go down a rabbit hole with these, and it's usually dudes, but they know things, and so I get a lot of information that I am sorry to tell you, gentlemen, I skim. And
then immediately forget.
Always. But I immediately forget everyone's dorkdom after the hour. I did an amazing episode about cricket. I knew how to play cricket.
I just learned that cricket's not croquet.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it's actually fun to play. And I did not mean to rhyme.
Did you?
Maybe I have a new career ahead of me.
Anita Sarkeesian, rapping. And got to get that episode with Jean Grey, by the way.
Yeah.
So, but it's, I love to get, like if sometimes I mention a book and then I'll get a lot of information about that author and the information about that book.
That's one of the things I love about geeky people and being in this orbit is like the passion that folks have and the knowledge they have. I asked someone why the name of this ship was called the Oosterdam, and they're like, well, let me tell you. There are 4 ships, and they're all based on I've already forgotten it. I've heard this like 3 hours ago, but whatever. Right. But I love that there's this wealth of information around us that's just not important, but fascinating.
Right. And they even know it's not important.
No.
Because there's a half smile on every dude's face when he tells me this. He's like,
so good.
Actually, I can tell you exactly why that. And then they tell me, and then I keep probably 20% of it. So I feel like that shallow pool of information is added to.
I am that person that's like, oh, I learned this cool thing about this thing we're talking about, and there was like water, and then there was like a person and a rat. But no, sorry, no. Let's start again. And I just like ruin the punchline and then forget all the facts. And then I'm like, but it was really interesting. Believe me.
In the moment, it genuinely is. So that's what this podcast is.
I love it.
And welcome to it.
Thank you.
All right. So what I loved, you were like, well, I like food.
I do.
And I've done probably a handful to 10 episodes out of the 600 so episodes. There's been plenty of food episodes, and I love chicken. Did you see that? You know how like when you come into they fold your towel like something. They folded my towel like a rotisserie chicken.
I thought that was just a funny joke on stage, but you did not make that up.
No, that looks like a rotisserie chicken, doesn't it?
It really does. I think it's supposed to be a monkey, though.
That's what Andy said, and I was like, "What monkey? Where's the monkey?"
I mean.
There's a Rorschach thing. I see chicken in everything. That might be part of it, is that I do see chicken. Chicken is one of my dorkdoms.
My ad. We're about to do an ad. Hey guys, it's me, Jackie Cation. Guess what? It's a Casper Mattress ad. Yeah, I've always wanted one. You spend a third of your life sleeping, so you should be comfortable, right? The original Casper mattress combines multiple supportive memory foams for a quality sleep surface with the right amounts of both sink and bounce. There's over 20,000 reviews and an average of 4.8 stars across Casper, Amazon, and Google. Casper is becoming the internet's favorite mattress. I've actually heard that. People love these Casper mattresses, man. They offer a wide array of other products like pillows and sheets to ensure the overall better sleep experience. We need new pillows. I think I'm going to do it. And get this, it's all designed, developed, and assembled in the United States. And it's delivered right to your door in a tiny, small, how do they do that, sized box. Free shipping and returns in the U.S. and Canada. The thing is that you can be sure of your purchase with Casper's 100-night risk-free sleep-on-it trial, which is weird and awesome of them. You have to note that this offer is only applicable to select mattress purchases, and terms and conditions apply. What happens is you get $50 off select mattresses by visiting casper.com/dork and using the promo code DORK at checkout. So you go to casper.com/dork and use the promo code DORK at checkout. And that has been an ad for Casper mattresses. Let's get back into the show, though. So
I find chicken kind of boring, though. I'm sorry to say. I'm sorry to say.
Oh, then someone's done something horrible to you.
It's not as bad as turkey.
What?
So, you can have it.
I like all the poultries.
Okay.
Me and poultry.
Maybe this is a poultry cast.
But you are not into poultry.
I'm not into it.
No. But
I just think if I have choices.
Meat?
Oh God, dude, I only eat meat. It's like I am the opposite of a vegan.
Okay.
In every way.
You would like? Are you paleo?
I am.
Wait a minute! Didn't you say you just did some? I
did the Whole30.
Thing? That's a food thing, like a diet thing,
It's a diet thing. Yeah.
What is the Whole30?
The Whole30 is a what is the Whole30? It is it's a type of, it's kind of like an elimination diet, but not that severe. It is a restrictive diet that a lot of folks do at the beginning of the year to help, sort of reset your body.
Like a cleanse, but not a cleanse.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's basically a more restrictive paleo, which means that there are no grains. So that means also no rice. People have a hard time understanding.
That rice
it's not
is a
just
grain.
bread. Rice is corn is also a grain.
Right.
So no rice, no corn, no soy sauce, no sugar except in fruit with moderation. So not even like alternative sugars like
stevia and
or like maple syrup or honey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No other thing, no dairy, no nuts, and no soy. I said that.
Yeah.
And so you basically eat meat and vegetables.
And beans? No beans.
No beans.
Right.
And so you do that for 30 days. And the idea is that like you're sort of resetting your body a little bit and you're assessing, because some people, a lot of people are reactive to things and they don't know why or what it is or just don't feel good. So you can slowly then reincorporate those back into your diet and see how you're reacting. So if like you introduce beans back in and then go, fuck, I still feel really bad. I can swear on this podcast.
Yes.
Right. Good.
Fucking
I still feel bad, then you might realize that maybe beans are not a great thing for you to have in your life, or you have them more moderately or whatever.
I did something exactly like this because last year I had my first ever surgery, and I have never had insurance, so I am constantly go to alternative medicine. And so now I'm sucked into essentially the hippies who look at the moon and then tell me that, like I was gluten-free for a year and a half in 1995. I went macrobiotic in 1993.
Yeah.
And then, of course, went away. But so I went to this. I have an acupuncturist and a chiropractor, and then I was turned on to a nutritionist, and the nutritionist was like, I think you're allergic to." And I had a series of blood tests. She's like, "I think you're probably allergic to gluten." It turned out I had one of those lady Pokemons. I had a fibroid.
Oh yeah,
and so
those are painful.
No, I was just. It was not painful.
Oh, I know some people who
I was bleeding to death enormously slowly.
Yeah.
It was the slowest bleeding to death ever.
Yeah.
And but I had been told by my gynecologist that my period might be uneven as I age into oblivion.
Yes,
so I thought that's right. That's what I thought was happening. And so I went to everybody. I went to my chiropractor. He was like, "What's happening?" And let me fix your neck. And so my acupuncturist, and finally it was my acupuncturist who said, "Go to a doctor." There's a reason Western medicine exists.
Sure.
She's a 65-year-old Chinese lady, by the way, from China.
Yeah.
And she's like, go to a gynecologist and tell them that you're bleeding weird. And I did, and the gynecologist said, yeah, we got to get that out of you. That's a real thing. And I'm like, he said, I could feel it in there because I went to the ER because it was bad.
Yeah.
And he was like, I could feel it. I could probably just pull it out. And I said, why don't you do that? I said, because you would bleed to death. This is not.
I could just pull it out. Is not a thing I want to hear in this context.
And he had the worst bedside manner in the world because I had never had surgery before. And I said, can I, I'm worried about the anesthesia. I've never had the lights put out on me. And he's like, yeah, most people die of the anesthesia.
Oh my God.
If there's anybody
was he trying
who dies.
to make jokes?
I think he might have been, but
was he like a comedic guy, or was he like, you're a comedian, so I'm going to try to out-comedy you?
He didn't know I was a comedian.
Okay.
And he was super deadpan, but I think he was kidding.
That's
he was
not
just
funny.
terrible at it. Yeah,
dude.
it was really not
Stick
good.
to your profession.
Anyway, so I get all this blood test to find out if I'm allergic to anything. It turns out old school peasant stock, half Armenian, half Irish. Literally, the joke, of course, is that this was genetically modified to pick up a rock on someone else's property. And move it to wherever that person might want it.
Good.
Anyway,
yeah.
so, but I'm not allergic to any of that stuff. But I did do for like 3 months. I didn't. It was because she was like, "You're not allergic to gluten, but I don't think you should have it anyway." And I was like, "You just don't like gluten. You hate gluten." And she's like, "I don't like gluten." And so I didn't do rice or any of this stuff. So you have been doing that, or did you just finish?
I've been doing it off and on for a while. So I travel a lot, and it makes eating healthy on the road incredibly difficult. And I'm one of those people that's really good with, I guess, extremes to some degree, where I'm like, I have to eat this way and there can be no exceptions, and I stick to it and stick to it and stick to it. And if I fuck up once, I just give up completely.
Oh my God.
So like, I can't just do moderation. Right. And I go to Sweden a lot.
Interesting.
And Sweden has the best fucking food. And also, they have delightfully delicious fresh bread everywhere all the time. Like, my Swedish friends come to America and they're like, what is this garbage?
Right.
Well, this is not bread. I don't understand.
The Swedish are nailing bread?
Yes. You walk into a Swedish restaurant and they will, they'll be like a little, like there's a lot of almost self-serve, like a buffet style.
Yeah.
Kinds
Steam
of things.
table-y?
No, but it's like you go to a counter and you order the food you want, right? And so that there's like the hot food that they prepare, and there might be like 3 options of things. And then there's a table of like 20 kinds of bread, and you slice it yourself because it's fucking fresh. And then sometimes there's like little tiny salad things that you get. It is delightful. The Swedes are an incredible food culture that resonates with me because I like to eat this way. It's a lot of meat and vegetables and fresh bread.
And then fresh bread.
So I go to Sweden and I'm like, okay, every other day I'll eat bread. This is my thing. No, every day, every meal. You can't stop. But I come
they
back.
made it fresh.
Why? How do you
rude?
It's so rude not to, right? Okay, this year, I didn't mean to do like a New Year's resolution because I don't really believe in that. Okay. But it just happened to coincide because I had just spent 34 days on the road and came home and was like, oh, I gotta get my shit together.
Right.
So I was like, I got a personal trainer.
Oh, interesting.
Gotta do the whole 30.
Yeah.
I created a WhatsApp support group for the people I convinced to do the whole 30 with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. All right.
About this. And then I was like, I feel good. I was standing around my house and I was like, okay, so I suffer from depression.
Okay.
And I was like, just feeling kind of like happy.
Oh, interesting.
And I was like,
where did this come from?
Yeah, the look on my face right now, I'm having a hard time articulating the feeling because I was like, I don't understand what this is.
Yeah.
Like, things are okay. I don't get it. And I was like, oh, is this what people feel like in life all the time? Like, is this just like the normal
not all
state
the
of
time,
affair? Right. But the like baseline.
But not
that
your
was
baseline.
Not my baseline.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I wonder if this could have something to do with the fact that I'm eating well and working out regularly and taking care of myself. And I'm like, so now I'm in this mode where I keep remembering that feeling and hoping that I get like, and being like, it's not worth it to eat the shitty fucking crappy desserts on this ship.
Yeah.
In order to not feel good.
Right.
So I'm holding on to that feeling and hoping that even if I do not make mistakes, like if I'm going to do this for the long term, I need to be able to be okay with like, not making mistakes, but like accepting that there's going to be exceptions occasionally and doing those more strategically. So in the middle of Whole30, I got invited to a Michelin-starred restaurant for super cheap. That was a part of this event that I was at. And so it was
Sweden?
No.
Okay.
No. I do have Swedish food stories though.
Oh, fair enough.
But no, it's Royster is a restaurant that's a part of the Alinea Group in Chicago.
Okay.
And there are three restaurants that are part of that are all sort of like Michelin-starred high-end dining.
Okay.
And Royster's the more casual one of those.
Okay.
And they close down the restaurant and do a buffet style for the people at this conference I went to.
Okay.
And I was like...
How do you spell Roysters?
Roister.
Oh, Royster. Got it.
And so I was like, okay, I'm doing really good on this diet. I literally baked a package of bacon, or I baked it, but I cooked a package of bacon and brought it on the plane with me so that I could have lunch on the plane of bacon.
Of bacon.
Sometimes bacon is an entire meal of its own, and that is so super on diet.
That's
benefit
weird.
of the diet.
Benefit of the diet. You can eat bacon.
You can eat
a bag of bacon.
A lot of bacon.
Wow.
Anyways, so Royster is known for their fried chicken sandwiches.
Oh.
So like we're talking all of the gluten.
All
of the gluten.
Right, it's been breaded within an inch of its life.
They do like a brioche bun with fried chicken in it with this delightful sauce. It is amazing.
Really?
Amazing. It was so worth it in every way.
Right.
Yeah. Fried chicken, man. But they did it so like designer fried chicken.
Designer fried chicken. All right.
The other thing at this restaurant that is top 3 favorite dessert I've ever had.
Okay.
They make a foie gras chocolate bar. So imagine a small little chocolate bar, and instead of the nougat part of it, it's foie gras.
What is foie gras?
It is
caviar.
It's liver. It's
a
duck
liver pate.
It's duck liver.
Okay,
it's like
there's chocolate in duck liver.
Well, it's usually savory.
Yeah,
but because it's so rich. And kind of heavy, and
mixed with
chocolate, it is the perfect. It is so. I'd never seen anything like it. It is so delightful and wonderful.
That's kind of amazing.
It's really, really good.
That actually would work. You know, I saw a documentary on Netflix. Michael Pollan has a series of 4 1-hour things: fire, wind, earth, ELO, whatever, whatever band he's doing, and one of them was fermentation of the cocoa beans, which is here in Mexico. We are off the coast of Loreto, Mexico,
we sure are.
In the Sea of Cortez, and so it was talking about how the chocolate is actually a savory thing. And then we add sugar to it, and that's how chocolate bars are made. So the idea of a chocolate with a foie gras is kind of brilliant. Yeah. And wow.
It's really good.
That sounds kind of amazing.
Okay. I derailed us because I made that exception.
Yeah, you make it,
and then
an
I was fine for the rest of the week and ate what I needed to eat. And this involves the amount of prep work I do and the amount of thinking I do around food now before I get on. Do you know how many snacks I have in my room right now?
And you came onto a ship that is full of snacks.
Exactly. I brought pork rinds and protein bars and like little paleo snack mixes because I'm like, I don't want at midnight when I'm not of mind on things and I get the munchies.
Right.
I don't want to be eating the
whatever
the shit on the ship, right? That's not what I should be eating.
Right.
Because then I won't have that happy feeling that people have.
Yeah.
It exists.
You have happiness now.
Well, no, I work on
you
it.
have it's still going to here's the thing about people who have depression that is very sad. They suffer from depression, and so they don't know what happiness is. And so when they get meds or they get something like this that helps them discover what people who don't have depression, which is me, what I do is I get depressed. And what that is, I call that...
You get depressed about our depression?
No, I get depressed in life where I am depressed, but I'm mostly cheerful. Like
you're cheerfully depressed?
No, I have, they're just called different emotions.
Right.
I don't
emotions.
suffer from, I don't suffer from depression, which seems to be,
Please tell me more.
Well, depression, now, and I don't know, but I have friends who suffer from depression, and it seems to be the baseline. where you're just like, I am slogging through some water here as I try to achieve my life. And if you can find some Circes from that, thank you. I just said Circes, you guys. Somebody give me a nickel. So, but if you can find some relief from that and get out of it, and you're like, is this what happiness is? It is. But what you should know is that I'm mostly like that, which of course you should be jealous. But when I get depressed, it is also real, but I know that it's going to end.
Yeah. I think that's the thing with depression is the baseline is just a constant, like, I don't know. It's messy. Like, I didn't realize until I was an adult that I think that I had, like, I'm not diagnosed.
Right.
You know, I don't.
You haven't been.
A whole nother conversation about diagnoses and mental health is actually kind of an issue. But this baseline, I just assumed everybody suffered from this kind of like feeling baseline because you don't know any different and nobody talks about it. My family didn't talk about emotions. We're Armenian.
Right.
We talk about feelings. And so I didn't realize until I was an adult that I was like, oh, I think I actually have been suffering from depression my whole life.
Right.
And didn't like when you are a child of like 10 and you spend the entire summer watching TV
you have
first
9
thing in
siblings?
the morning. No.
A child of 10?
Oh, when
10
you were
years
10
old.
years old. Yeah, I was
my
like,
God.
what did
I was
say
like,
wrong?
are there 10 kids in your family?
Oh, God, no. My mother would lose her goddamn mind.
How many kids are in your family?
Just two.
Just two. Okay,
Yeah,
we have 6.
Yeah,
Catholics. That's why.
Catholics.
Yeah. Anyway, so Armenians know about birth control. Anyway,
They
so,
do. They do. Yeah. We don't have the same problems. But
so when you're a child of 10 and
I
you
sat
wake
around
up,
all summer watching TV from morning to night. I'd watch Lamb Chop's Playhouse in the morning and Star Trek Voyager at night. Like I did nothing but watch TV. And I was like, as an adult now, I know I love that I've turned my depressive like dissociations into my career. Where like, oh, just watch TV for 24 hours a day. Done. I can do that.
It turns out I have that skill set.
But then as an adult, I was like, oh, I see these patterns and I understand this thing better and I can like do things to help solve that problem. But there's almost a comfort in this didn't come out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
It's that this was a thing that I grappled with, and now I have the language and the tools to be able to deal with.
Well, and I think that you just defined growing up. I mean, the thing is like, I mean, we're children until we realize that, like my stepmother used to say, she literally was one of the meanest, funniest things and she was known for her mean and funny things to say, she's like, yes, it's very sad that you were born in the rain. You're an adult now. Why are you still standing in the rain? Get out of the rain.
Oh.
You're a grown up. You know the fuck to get out. Yeah.
I mean, it's very limited and not how it works at all, but
not at all.
It's poetic.
It's poetic and it sums it up. Yeah. And the thing is, it's not particularly helpful. It is what it is it's hilarious. And you're like, okay, allow me to unravel that and try to figure out how to grow up, which is what you're trying to tell me to do. Yeah.
And that's the thing too, when so my friends who were doing the Whole30 with me, and we still it's done, but we still use this app to talk about food stuff because a lot of them are like, oh, I want to do an 80-20, right? Like I want to eat like this 80% of the time and not 20% of the time. And so watching them, like quote unquote make mistakes or,
or make different choices to have a treat.
Yeah.
Which is what it ought to be, supposedly.
Yeah. It was interesting to watch them be like, oh, I ate a bunch of candy at the movies and I felt like shit the next day, right? Like, we don't understand that as a society, we do not associate what we put into our bodies that like affecting our energy levels and our mental health and our like bodily operations and all of that kind of stuff. And so watching those connections, I think is really interesting. And for me, I've been trying to do this for years, right? Like the supplements and the food and the exercise and all the shit. And I just do it for a few months and stop and do it for a few months and stop. And so I'm committed in a way that I haven't been. I can feel the difference
Fair enough.
now.
Yeah.
But it took me years to get there. And so it's this, I'm making sure that I continue to be sympathetic to the other folks who are struggling with how to maintain this and what it means for them. And, understanding that it took me a long time to get here as well, and that it's still a struggle for me.
Right. I mean, that sort of...
I'm just over feeling like shit. Like, the trauma of the public abuse that I get, my personal traumas in my own life and all that stuff, it all adds up and adds up and adds up. And at some point, you're like, I don't want to feel this way anymore.
Right. And so if you can find a thing that is... Because sometimes... I mean, our initial reaction is to go and get the booze or go and get the candy or go and get in my case, rotisserie chicken.
Yeah, rotisserie chicken.
I enjoy a rotisserie chicken a great deal.
It gives you a high.
It really, maybe it's tryptophan.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Well, and that's the thing about depression, too, is that it is such a chicken and egg kind of situation because, like, when you're depressed, you know that doing certain things are good for you, but you can't fucking do them because you're depressed.
Yes.
Right? Like, it's really hard to motivate. It's like exercise is the worst thing ever. If you told me 5 years ago that I would love working out, I don't love it. I love that it happened. I love after.
Right.
I would laugh in your face.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, no, that's the worst thing ever. But so that's the thing about depression, too, is that it's really hard to do anything and to function in. And I think that we have a national level of depression across the board.
Right.
Because how many people on stage at this show so far have talked about how 2017 has been really hard on them creatively?
Yeah.
Because we've all been so depressed and depleted and like trying to get through this political time.
Right. We're living through a war zone and it doesn't look like a war zone except for that there's a war mentality and it's got everybody beat down and it's hard to get some air and to get out of it. So so whenever anybody makes fun of self-care and all of those words, because those words, they're easy to mock. But the thing is if you don't take care of yourself, guess what you're going to be mocking? You're going to be mocking your own suicide, right? I mean,
I was like, "Where are you going with?"
It fell apart there at the end.
But that's the thing too. Is I was like, "When did I turn into a fucking hippie?" I hate hippies, and I'm like,
I have always been a crystal clutcher, man. Since the day.
But I'm like, I'm talking about mindfulness and shit, and I'm like, oh, when did I become that person?
Well, and the problem is,
but it's important.
It is important, and the problem is that the gomers who make up the words are the things that really, I mean, because you're like, yes, but you sound like a SNL sketch.
You do. I know.
And,
it's totally what it is. So
but if you don't take care of yourself, you will hurt yourself. So, you got to do it.
Totally.
Now, completely aside from this.
Which was not the topic we were supposed to be talking about.
Right.
At all. I'm a dork about depression.
Right. Exactly. And there's absolutely nothing wrong. Are you kidding?
But it is related to food stuff. So, it's not totally unrelated.
Right. And I
am kind of a dork about health. So
there you go.
There we go.
Yeah.
I'm bringing it back around. We're in the forest still.
We're still in the forest. Dork, 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 dork. So
is that what it sounds like in the forest?
Somebody made Mike Upchurch once made the word dork with birds in the background, and it was just like dork, 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 dork.
That's wonderful.
It was very sweet. It was very sweet. I don't use it anymore.
You have lovely fans.
I really do, actually, quite honestly. Things are all working out.
That's because you're lovely.
Aw. I am the golden retriever of stand-up comedy, is what I like to say.
That's perfect. I like golden retrievers.
Everyone does.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you don't, you're some sort of monster.
Yeah,
Something's gone horribly
so
awry.
if people don't like you, they are monsters, is what this comes down to.
Well, you said it.
I did. Anita Sarkeesian, quote me.
Exactly. You got my back. And but I love the idea because you said the weirdest thing is that I love bougie foods.
Love bougie food.
But there's
the more expensive the better.
The more just weird, obscure. Have you ever been to Japan?
No. Can
Me
you
neither.
believe it?
I can't actually.
Okay.
You were born to go to Japan and be judged. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I like talking about food culture and like the capital of like the bougiest, like high end, but not even bougie, just delicious
weird,
food all over I want to go to Japan.
Yes.
And eat and ride high speed trains.
Okay.
At the same time.
Pardon me while I get a bento box and get on this train.
Yes, that is exactly what I want to do. My problem is that I travel so much for work that the idea of sitting on a plane for fun for more than an hour is like hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you go to Europe fairly
I do.
lot?
I did I went a lot last year.
Yeah.
And I want to die every time I get on that plane.
I'm going to Yellowstone with my in-laws and my husband, and they're like, we want to drive. And I was like, I want to meet you there. And luckily I'm going to.
You're going to drive or meet
No,
them
they're
there?
going to drive. And Andy's moms are adorable and lovely, and I do genuinely love them. I don't want to spend 4 days in a car with me, much less others.
Sure. And in addition to spending more time with you on the vacation.
Right. So I'm going to meet them at Yellowstone we're going to go to Deadwood because Andy liked that TV show. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to go look at the president's heads, which I have warned them is essentially, wow.
I have no interest in doing
Let's
that.
Let's go to lunch.
Let me know how that goes.
And,
although I spent most of my life being like, cool, let's sit in front of TVs and computers. Yeah. What is outside? I don't understand
You're
outside.
indoor people.
Yeah, but I'm not anymore. That was part of my like mental health, like trying to get out of the depression of the trauma of Gamergate and all that shit.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I like hiking and like fresh air and oceans and shit. So I feel like there's all of these like all the national forests and stuff. I live in San Francisco. Have I ever been to
Yosemite?
Never.
We just
fucking Tahoe,
right?
I've never been to any of them.
We just went to Yosemite.
Why didn't you invite me?
Well, we didn't know each other, and it was 3 years ago. I
don't all Armenians know each other?
Some people think so. And though, do you know James Adomian?
I don't know any Armenians, to be honest. I know like two.
I have never, because I'm Wisconsin Armenian.
Yeah,
and then
which
I moved
is not
to
real. I don't believe you.
Oh my God, we have melted so far into the woodwork that it is more Wisconsin than Armenian. So, except for that, there's a lot of like whenever anybody in LA is like, you don't look Armenian, and I'm like, I can do food and church. You want to do either of those? We can help. And then
I walked into my apartment building a couple days ago, and it smelled like Armenian church. I was like, what kind of incense are my neighbors lighting that it smells like a fucking... It's a very specific church smell that no other churches do. I was immediately transported back into the hell of sitting there being lectured at in Armenian that I don't understand for hours.
Here's what I love about Armenian church is that it is all in Armenian, and so I can think anything I want.
You can.
Yeah.
That's true. But it's also like ancient Armenian.
Oh, yeah.
And they stare. I took a non-Armenian to an Armenian wedding once, and they were like, what in the fuck did you take me to? Because it's hardcore Orthodox, right? So they first of all, they speak to the wall with their back to you, which is weird to most people.
Well, they're hiding they're turning bread into some Jesus.
Yes. The bread at Armenian churches are so good, though, right? Fucking my mom.
We weed off into kata.
When I learned, I'm bringing it back to food.
Yeah. No, I love it.
When I finally learned that I could start saying no to going to church and like get away with it, I would just make my mom bring me the bread back. You know, that really light sauce. And so she would pocket it and bring it back to me at home. And so it was delightful.
Wrapped in wax paper, I hope?
Yeah, or a napkin or some shit.
It's because I have a new joke on, I have a story that it's almost impossible for me to, I've told it probably a dozen times on stage, and luckily it was during the recording of my album, and it's about the genocide. And it's essentially, I told.
Genocide jokes.
Nobody does Armenian genocide jokes like myself. But my grandmother was hilarious. She lived through the genocide, and nobody's funnier than people who live through a genocide, because they're just like, can you believe it? Anyway, but she had the greatest story from when I was 19, I told her I didn't want to go to church anymore. And she told me the story about when the Turks came and emptied their village in 1915. She was 16 years old. And she said the Turkish general was... she said he was a pretty good guy. He let us, who was going to drive us off into the desert to die.
Was he a nice guy?
He wasn't. It was, you know how like you go, well, he's not. He's trying. Anyway, he was trying not to kill us while he killed us. And so she said that they were roasted so quick that there was still bread in the oven. And she, 60 years later, was still worried about the bread. And I was like, Grandma, guess what? Probably burned. Anyway, so...
maybe it burned the house down and then the Turks went with it.
Yeah.
Maybe she was responsible for the murder of some Turks.
Or my great-uncle Haji went back. I should show you this picture of my great-uncle. My great-uncle Haji printed money with his picture on it to pay an army to fight the Turks.
Okay. We have to start another podcast just so I can hear these stories. This is delightful.
Okay, but here's the scoop. So the Turks come. The general says that my grandmother's family can bring their donkey out into the desert to die. And my grandmother's grandmother is supposed to ride this donkey.
Okay.
The village priest stole the donkey. so that he could ride it instead of my grandmother's grandmother.
What a dick.
Yep. My grandmother, 16 years old, took a 2x4 and beat the priest off of the donkey.
Is this a real story?
That's a real story.
Yes, Grandma.
And, yes. And she told me that story right after I told her I didn't want to go to church anymore. She goes, I go to church.
And I beat a priest.
And you'd think I would have lost faith in the church. I did not. I lost faith in that asshole. And I was like, oh, God. Okay, I'll go to church. And
yeah,
so,
that's a compelling story.
Oh, she's full of compelling stories. The powerful story is, of course, about our political situation. Was that, and it came to me right after the election, which was the thing is because I was about 13 and I made her cry because I was like, well, what was the genocide like, Grandma? And so which
is not unreasonable to ask at that age.
Well, when you're 13, you don't know any better. Yeah. And so she said, well, for every 200 Armenians walking into the desert, there was one Turkish soldier with a gun. And then she just stared at me. And I asked her the question that was clearly the question to ask, which was, why didn't you guys just kill that guy? You could have all tackled that guy. And she said, and I quote, nobody wanted to be the first to die, so we all died.
Oh,
and you're like,
so gut-wrenching.
Fuck. And my joke, of course, is that
yes, because it had to be.
There has to be a punchline. Was that she told me that story because she wanted me to be the first to die. You know, when you're the second child and the youngest of 6, the second girl, totally expendable.
Yeah,
she's like, you should totally just tackle him.
Yeah,
so the decision was made that I will be tackling.
All right.
There will be no ICE. There will be no Muslims in trains.
Yeah,
fuck those people.
Yeah,
and.
But here's the thing. Okay, this is so derailing. But the thing is, Armenians are so fucking conservative, and that's part of being the diaspora mentality, right? You look at a lot of different cultures and communities that are part of diaspora that become very conservative, very like insular, like. Glendale is a fucking nightmare. Like living in LA for several years, I got lectured everywhere.
Daily.
When people found out I was Armenian and didn't speak Armenian, I got lectured, I got ignored, I got walked away from. Like I was not a good enough Armenian anymore. Instead of being like,
why wouldn't you want to learn Armenian now? And you're like, well, because I live here in America.
Yeah, no, I would. So, but here's the fucking irony of that whole story is that my first language was Armenian. I grew up in a very white suburb.
Yep.
I went to preschool speaking broken English.
Yeah.
And got made fun of so badly that I came home and said I was never speaking Armenian again.
Aha.
So, fuck racism, first of all.
Yeah.
And then fuck you for like... For doing it in the other direction.
Right. And nailing me now.
Yeah. But so like when I meet it happens very rarely, but occasionally Armenian young women will come up to me at events at schools and be like, I'm Armenian and thank you. Because I didn't have any Armenian role models. I didn't like Armenians. I like rejected our culture for a really long time because I thought that they were annoying and gossipy and too insular and conservative and didn't have my values and my politics and all of that. And so it's rare to meet someone where you're like, hey, you didn't vote for Trump? Cool.
Right.
Because Armenians only care about having the genocide recognized. So when you meet other progressive Armenians, you're like, holy shit, you exist.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
and we need to get out of that. We need to be there for other. Oh, sorry. I now I'm remembering why I brought this up. Even is because like, why aren't we there for other communities that are being deported, that are being like cast aside in different where like. Types of abuse are happening that we have historical experience with and supporting them. And it's the same reason why isn't the Jewish community supportive of Armenians being recognized and the genocide?
And some of them are. And it's
true. That's true.
Right.
But also, why would you? Because Armenians are fucking miserable. So I'm of two minds of this, but I do.
Right.
There's a complication there for me in terms of my own Armenian identity and not feeling connected to the community at all.
William Saroyan wrote such a beautiful book back in the 30s. No, it was, remember Passage to Ararat? Did you ever read Passage to Ararat?
No.
It was about a guy who was raised among asshole Armenians and then, had to, I don't think that was Saroyan, it was somebody else, but it was, he met Saroyan in the book. Anyway, so it was about a guy who was like, I hate Armenians. I'm Armenian, I hate Armenians. And then he goes to Ararat, or he goes to Yerevan, and he sees Ararat from the other side, of course. But the crazy thing is that it's how he finds, because there's obviously plenty of decent Armenians in the world.
Yeah.
And
there's some.
good to know you here. You're like,
Yeah.
really?
We're all in
Where
this
are
room
you
right now.
Well, and it's, I mean, I was telling you that there's this Armenian Nights stand-up show at Flappers in downtown Burbank in Los Angeles and the audience is so funny because they're all Armenian comics and they grew up in LA, most of them. So they do their act half in English, half in Armenian.
Oh, interesting.
And they have like weird, super Armenian specific LA jokes. Like this one guy has this amazing bit about how he comes from a mixed, his family is a mixed race family. His dad is Beiruti and his mom is Hayastan. And you're like, well, that's hilarious if you know what the fuck that means. And the audience does.
Yeah.
But the difference between the Armenians that you meet everywhere else, like especially, it's that new immigrant thing where the new immigrants, when I first moved to Los Angeles, it was in 97, I think. And, everyone in Wisconsin, all the Armenians in Wisconsin were like, well, you got to watch out for the Beiruti Armenians, which were all these Armenians who came to the United States in the 70s from Lebanon. They're all thugs and mobsters. And you're like, first of all, nobody immigrates anywhere because things are going well. So why don't you shut the fuck up?
Yeah.
And then, and now 20 years later, everyone in Wisconsin is like, the Beiruti Armenians they've melted essentially, right? Their kids are going to college now. They're like, you got to watch out for the Armenians, the Hayastan Armenians, who came from Armenia in the early 2000s because they're all thugs and mobsters. And I'm like, again, you're being a jerk.
So I forget that I grew up in Canada.
Yeah. We're like near Toronto or Montreal?
Near Toronto.
Okay.
And I had my experiences there with Armenians or whatever, but so when I moved to LA, I forget when I talk shit about Armenians, in my mind I'm thinking about Glendale Armenians. And I forget that Armenians on other parts of the country are very different. The East Coast Armenians are very different, and they've been there for longer.
Right, they've been there for over 100 years.
Yeah, and so like the Glendale Armenians are very insular. It's very ghettoized in a lot of ways.
It's Saddam Hussein. Essentially, they are millionaires who want to put a gold paint on a plastic chandelier,
or they're pretending. Like I know, or you're like you have two Mercedes and you live in a tiny apartment, 1-bedroom apartment with like 20 people, right? Like it's very image based, but it's a different culture that is unwilling to be a part of a larger community. And I'm not for assimilation. I think that that's a very messy, complicated, like, I'm not like you need to Americanize.
Right.
But also like, the deep racism that I have heard at dinner conversations with my like extended Armenian family or with like people my family grew up with is like they're literally talking about the Mexicans and how they're coming in and all the signs are in Spanish and how dare they, and I don't understand. I was like we're literally in Glendale where there's everything is written in Armenian.
Yes.
And like they're like they come here and they get on welfare. I was like, your fucking aunt that's sitting at the table right now has literally not worked a day in her life and she's on it is this utter disconnect of like
hypocrisy.
we are the good like quote unquote white people that deserve this life and those are the bad brown people, and so that there's no understanding of like, no, we're literally in this together.
Yes, right.
And we have more privilege,
right? It's why what makes it genuinely can make you hate people that you were raised in because what I love about the Armenian church is that there's some sweet old ladies, I want to learn how to make manta and sarma, and it's going to be great. And my great aunt Alice is a delight.
Yeah.
And, but when there's jerks at the church, you're like, I can't hang out with you because you're wrong and you're mean.
Yeah.
Well, and
have you ever been to Armenia?
No. Have you?
I went once.
Okay.
It was, so I have friends who live there that were getting married. So I went for their wedding.
Okay.
And it was a weird experience because I was like, going to the motherland, right? Like this is as an Armenian, you grow up with like, so my family's from Iraq.
Okay.
But my parents, and they always talked about
I've been to Iraq.
Have you?
Yes, but just because of the troops. Yeah.
Wow.
Because I performed for the troops.
Did you?
Sure.
Interesting. Well, it's another conversation I want to have with you.
Yeah.
Maybe with tacos on the beach.
Sure.
Yeah. So like they would talk about back home, but like they're Armenian through and through. Like my parents don't say they're Iraqi. They say they're Armenian. And so even though they had never been to Armenia is the motherland that you like always whatever. And so when I went, I was like, I didn't know what to expect, and I didn't really like it. And I realized why. Yeah. Eventually. To me, I didn't quite know the division in my upbringing of the difference between Arab culture and the difference between Armenian culture, because it's always been mixed in my house because my parents were born and raised in Iraq.
An Arab country.
Yeah, in an Arab country. And so there was, they grew up with an Armenian community, and so there's lots of Armenian stuff, but then there's Arab stuff. So when I would talk to my friends about certain food, like Armenian friends about certain food stuff, they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah. I was like, it's Armenian. And I go back to my mom, and she'd be like, no, that's Musuli. Yeah. Right? Like, so there's this
that's Iraqi. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so when I went to Armenia, it was so not Western Armenian, which is what my family is. So a lot of the folks who suffered through the genocide and survived it ended up in Middle Eastern countries, and their own type of culture formed that was mixed in with Arab countries. The Armenians that were in Eastern Armenia, which is what we consider Armenia today.
Like Soviet Armenia.
Yeah. So much Russian influence that I don't understand. The food is different. Like everything about it is so different that it didn't feel like any markers to me of my upbringing.
It feels much more Russian. My great uncle Sebu, he came to visit us in the late 70s, and he was a member of the Communist Party, and he was a colonel in the Russian army, the Soviet army, and he was Russian in my head. I was like, that guy's not Armenian.
Yeah. And when you hang out there's a lot of Russian mixed in, like the language and so it just, and Eastern Armenian and Western Armenian languages are different. Yeah. So like I can understand a bit of Western Armenian because that's what I grew up with. Eastern Armenian sounds like a completely different language to me. And my parents even struggle with it when they're there because it's so different. But the food.
Yeah.
So Eastern Armenian food is more boring than Western Armenian food, but Armenia, Yerevan has like a plethora of food options. And there was this one Syrian restaurant that had, do you know chakufta? Are you familiar with chakufta, the raw beef? Ball,
like a kibbeh kind of thing, but but tartar somehow.
Yeah, it is one of my favorite things ever. It's raw beef, and they mix it with bulgur and just a little bit of salt and a tiny bit of spice.
I have had that.
20 plates of this thing. I went to every restaurant that served it and compared all of them.
And how much did it vary? Did it or was it pretty standardized?
It is standardized generally because there's not that much ingredients, but some places just do it better, right?
And it's ground beef or ground lamb?
It's ground beef.
Okay.
It's ground beef. And it's a particular cut of beef.
It has to be because it's raw.
Super fine. Yeah.
And are you doing is it citrus, did you say? What's
No, it's bulgur. Bulgur and like salt.
A little bit of grain.
And a little, yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh god, it's so good. It's one of the best.
And then
things
just
ever.
Salt, and then maybe some parsley, or no?
Yeah, a little bit. I think it. Like you can vary on those sorts of things,
right? Like there might be maybe even a little raw garlic. That's what I would put.
That sounds good, but that's not how they do it.
That's not how it's not happening.
No, don't ruin the tradition.
Don't ruin the tradition.
No, do whatever you want.
Right, I'm here to break it.
Yeah.
And well, that sounds amazing.
It was really good.
Do you realize we're 50 minutes into this thing and we haven't talked about food?
I don't
but we
actually
just
feel like
met,
a dork
like yesterday.
About Armenians. Yeah. We needed to get this out.
We really did.
Yeah.
There'll be other episodes. Yeah. But so you live in the Bay Area.
I do.
How is the food there?
I have not found any good Arab food in the Bay Area. I haven't looked hard, but it's just not. There's not like as big of a community there. But like the food in the Bay Area generally is amazing.
Right. Most of California has amazing restaurants.
Yes. And
stuff.
One of the big reasons why I moved back to California was because I wanted access to like fresh produce and fresh meats and like organic meats and the fucking natural ass farm shit. The bougie shit, right? I'm a hippie. I'm not, but I am.
But you've been sucked into the fact that it's healthier.
Yeah.
So, because hippies, they're not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're just sometimes insufferable because they say Nicaragua. It's a lot. Yeah. It's yeah. I've been there.
Yeah. No, there's delightful, there's a lot of good food in San Francisco, and there's a lot of good like experimentation with food and stuff like that. So
cool.
It's a good place to be.
Is there, so if you're eating a lot of meats and vegetables,
yes.
What's your favorite vegetable these days? Do you have a way that vegetables are being done that you would recommend to the people of America or the rangers of the Dork Forest, shall we say, who are everywhere, not just in America?
What's my favorite vegetable?
Mm-hmm. You know how there's a lot of
you can ask me what my favorite meat is. I can answer that.
Oh, you can do meat eats ear? Okay, what's your favorite meat?
Lamb.
Well, I knew that was going to be the answer.
I have eaten every single part of the lamb because I was in Morocco.
Yeah.
And I was there during one of their big holidays.
Yeah.
And for this particular holiday, every family gets a lamb,
okay,
a live lamb. And
but not for long.
No, and then a butcher comes around to everybody's house and slaughters the lamb, and then there's a whole preparation. And so, like, every family does this for the most part. And I was documenting the process for a friend, and I was like, I'm an American. I can't watch an animal being killed in front of me. What do you mean? And I was like, it actually became a really great experience, and it made me feel so much more connected to food and the process of food. And it's very humane how it's done, right? It's very quick. They know
look
what
over
they're
there.
doing. Yeah, kind of.
Oh, good.
But through that process, you watched they clean the intestines, and then they stuff them and they serve them, and they char the head, and they take the skin and they turn it into leather for bedding and that sort of thing. And lamb testicles are a delicacy that tastes disgusting.
I bet.
Yeah.
And I'm sure my father would insist that he gets them.
Yes, I'm sure. And lamb brains are delicious.
Are they?
With some scrambled eggs? Fuck yeah. Super good. I'm just saying. But so that's there's a lot of pieces that I don't like a lot of intestines in that. Speaking of intestines, have you had pacha? Like the big Armenian...
No.
It's a huge Armenian stew of just intestines. It's fucking disgusting, and my parents lose their shit over it.
They love it. Yeah. My dad used to love basturma.
Oh, I love basturma.
Basturma's fine. It's like a prosciutto-y kind of
delicious,
right? But in Wisconsin, it was a beef jerky.
Oh no,
which is horrible.
Is.
And in L.A., if you get basturma, it's prosciutto.
Yeah,
it's essentially this beautiful, fresh.
You find the dude
amazing,
that makes it perfectly.
Yeah, I've got an amazing Armenian butcher who is consistently surprised that I'm alive. He's just like, you don't look Armenian at all. How do you know to order? And I'm like, you don't have to talk.
What does
to
that
me.
mean?
Why don't you take my $7 and shove it up your ass and give me the food I want?
The Armenian butchers that I've gone to are always like, "Are you dating a good Armenian guy?
Oh my God!
Guy? Why you got to date a guy married to a good Armenian guy?"
Yeah.
I'm like, what? I don't know you.
Why
are you asking me about dating?
Here's what I like to say. Well, because men are constantly asking us about dating. But whenever anybody would say that to me, I was like, you know what happens when you breed dogs too close together? You get nervous dogs. That's why.
The next time I'm gonna be like, I'm dating a great Armenian woman, and they're gonna lose their shit.
Oh my God. That's this Armenian night stand-up thing. There's a gay Armenian comic who goes up, and he's married and the audience was like, so I'm gay and Armenian, and the audience, because they're a comedy audience, and they've known that they've come to a comedy club, they are by definition more liberal. And they are... There was a couple of people who were gasping, and then he was like, "But he's a very nice Armenian boy." And then they applauded. So it was so he married a nice Armenian boy, and so they applaud.
That's a really good joke.
And my sister is gay. One of the funniest things, Nancy Cation, our stepmother, again, was told my sister that she could not tell our grandmother that she was gay because it would kill her. And Darla Cation said out loud to Nancy Cation, or maybe just to me. I don't know if she said it to Nancy, but she said it to me. She said, "Really? So Grandma lived through the genocide, but my homosexuality is really that's gonna be the thing that's gonna kill her."
Yep.
Seems unlikely. And
all Armenians, we're so consistent.
Oh, dum-dums.
Yeah.
And except for the Nancy Cation, Italian and Polish, and Catholic. So. Cool. And very funny. And dead.
I definitely do not dork out about being Armenian.
No.
So I love that we had a whole Armenian cast about something I do not.
Welcome to the Dork Forest called Armenian Cast. Maybe I'll call this one Armenian cast.
Armo cast. Here we
Yes.
are.
Here we go. And it's like here. So I can make manta, which I call
you talking
manta,
about
but
Monty?
I'm talking about Monty.
Okay, but you
Everyone
call
else
it
calls
manta.
it Monty.
You just decided to rename this thing.
Well,
on your
my
own.
grandmother called it manta.
Oh, that's
She
fair.
called.
She survived the genocide. You can't argue that.
Right. She has,
wins.
Well, my father's Armenian is this complete hash of Armenian, Turkish, and Arabic because of my grandmother and everyone in South Milwaukee. Like the Armenian word for automobile is automobile. Because when my grandmother left the Turkey in 1916,
Left the turkey.
left the Turkey. When she left Turkey in 1915, there were no automobiles. There was only one she had only seen one bicycle in
Yeah.
her life. And so
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. So there's no like so the mishmash of Armenian and English and Turkish and Arabic, it's just a conglomeration
Yeah.
of crap.
But Monty,
Right.
which is one of my favorites.
Oh, it's outstanding.
I didn't realize. So as a kid, I loved it, and
It's
I'd
an
always
Armenian
be like,
dumpling, by the way.
It is an Armenian dumpling. They're really small, but as a kid,
They look like wing nuts.
And you put them in. You can bake them or you can boil them, and you cook them in broth with a little bit of garlic yogurt. And you
Oh,
mix
you
it
do
all up.
garlic yogurt? We never
do
did garlic yogurt. We just
My
did
mom
yogurt.
over Christmas this year made me hand mash the garlic in a mortar and pestle with a mortar and pestle for like 20 minutes to make the garlic super creamy, like fine and
Yeah.
creamy, and like I was like, holy shit, that's what next time. That's what
Yeah,
I do.
yeah.
But I didn't realize I loved it, and so as a kid, I was always like, I want Monty, and I didn't know how fucking hard it is to make.
Oh, it's the most
It's not
labor
hard. It's just
labor
it's-
intensive.
You have to make every single tiny one. You have to hand make every single tiny one, and you eat it in 2 seconds.
Right. My grandmother would make them in lots of 1,000.
Oh my god!
And
And
we
sit there
would
for
eat-
days.
Yeah, and we would just eat them like by the handful because she would freeze them in bags.
Yeah.
And so what it is it looks like a wing nut. You have she's made 1,000 wing nuts that she's baked. She's put them in bags of 100 in the fridge. I don't know that she counted them, but we would eat. And then she would serve them in soup. But we would just eat them by handfuls cold. And she's like,
Really?
You cannot.
Like raw?
No, they were baked.
Oh, they were all pre-baked.
Yeah, they were
Got it.
pre-baked, and then she would put them in the soup.
Oh,
And,
okay.
It was one of my grandmother's greatest regrets is that she was an amazing baklava maker, and none of us liked baklava.
Really? Okay. So my mother makes the best baklava, as I'm sure
Oh.
everybody thinks that their mothers make the best. But my
Right.
mother does it a little bit differently.
Interesting.
Which I will not give away the family recipe, which she taught me this year, finally. But hers is less sweet and a little flakier.
Oh.
It's not as drippy. And so, I'll make you.
Oh, please!
Next
I would
time
like
I'm
to
down
try.
in Southern California.
But what we did love was we loved her Monty, and then we loved her boreg.
Oh, all this shit I can't eat anymore. This is
Right, because
It's
boreg
literally-
is phyllo dough
even-
and cheese.
It's so good. And even the the kuftas,
Right.
which you're like, oh, I can eat the meat. It's filled with fucking bulgur, which is
bulgur rice,
delightful.
and it's delightful. So she would make the little bulgurs, the little kuftas, and then she would make the big kuftas. And I one time have made the big kuftas. So
How did that go?
they were the size of small softballs.
Sure,
But
sure.
guess what? Tasted just fine.
Did they?
But
Yeah.
there's an amazing it's a Lebanese Israeli restaurant in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Which is what a weird mashup. But they have a kufta that they call kibbeh. I
Oh
think.
yeah, kibbeh. Yeah.
And but the food's amazing. The pilaf's amazing. It's
Yeah.
all.
Did you grow up with home cooked Armenian food?
Mm-hmm.
So like hummus. Let's talk about hummus for a minute.
Except for that hummus is an Armenian. That's your Arabic ancestry.
That is my Arabic ancestry.
Yeah.
So did you grow up with homemade hummus?
No.
Oh, okay. Never mind then.
Yeah.
So that's my thing where I'm like, when people are like, oh, I brought hummus, and I'm like, you bought store bought crap
From
Like,
Ralph's? Please.
Yeah, it's like when like anybody of their own cultural background has like homemade. Like it's like if you're Mexican and someone brings guacamole from the
Tamales.
store or something, or tamales or whatever. You're like, this is crap. Like I can't do hummus that's not homemade.
A frozen taquito has not seen a Mexican woman in 100 years.
Yes.
Yes.
Understandably.
Yeah.
But hummus is the easiest thing to make. Like it
Because
is,
it's just chickpeas and lemon and garlic, right?
and
Or
tahini.
oil? And tahini.
And oil. And water. And yeah.
Okay, so you
But-
need
and
tahini.
salt.
Tahini's the weird thing.
Tahini is
Yeah,
the
tahini-
opposite of weird.
You have to go find tahini if you don't know where to buy
Okay.
tahini.
Here's my tip from me to you. Tahini is the best thing on earth, and I find reasons to put it in everything. And
is it sesame seeds?
Yeah, but I don't think people think about tahini like a nut butter. Like, so there's almond butter and there's sunflower butter. Tahini is just sesame seed butter. So
you've blown my mind.
I know, and this only occurred to me because I made a smoothie with tahini, and it was fucking amazing. And everyone is like, "What? That's so weird." And I'm like, "Try it," and then they're like, "It's delicious." Here's the recipe. Are you ready, listeners?
Please.
Here's my. Okay, first of all, this is much better in a Vitamix than in a traditional blender because a Vitamix
is a juicing machine.
No, a Vitamix is a really powerful blender.
Okay.
So almond milk or a milk of your choosing.
Okay.
A liquid of your choosing. I don't care what you choose.
Right. Maybe water. That'd be weird.
You want something a little creamy.
Okay.
But you could do milk or yogurt or coconut milk or whatever. Spinach, a handful of spinach. Flax seeds.
Right.
I use hemp protein powder.
Okay.
Shout out to hemp protein powder. Half a banana.
Okay.
Frozen blueberries.
Now I'm interested.
And a couple tablespoons of tahini.
Right, which makes that's delicious. A savory with a hint of sweet.
Well, I do. It's a protein smoothie.
Right. So right. So
I don't do a lot of sugar. So
right. But
except last night when I ate an entire watermelon.
Oh, that's a good idea, though. I was going to ask you, what's your favorite protein bar?
So I've been doing doing the Whole30 sugar is kind of, so you don't want to eat a lot of dates and stuff. So I was looking for protein bars that I can just throw in my bag and eat when I'm traveling or whatever. And I found this one. So it was based in Chicago was this company. They're called RX bars.
Oh my God, they advertised on the door. I was praying to God you were going to say that.
Click into this?
Right. Well, yeah, because I just did an ad for RX bars.
I should put that on my podcast.
They sent me a free box of RX bars.
Eat them.
I did eat them.
Aren't they good?
They were really good.
Yeah, see?
They are 2 egg whites, 2 dates.
I love the packaging. It totally feeds into my bougie bullshit.
Yeah.
I have like 20 of those in my room right now.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, so if you need any, let me know.
No,
they were just bought by Kellogg, I think. I think they were bought by a corporation, like a big corporation, which is why they're everywhere now.
First order 25% off, Rangers. Go back. It was you just got to use my code.
I genuinely. So I've been thinking about doing ads on our podcast because we don't right now, and I'm like, I just need to find the things that I actually like, and that would be okay, like pimping out, because I'm super into them. There no refined sugars in them because they're made. I'm totally doing an ad right now.
It's a block of paste.
It's a block of paste
with actual nuts in it, which I like, and then and they're never too sweet. They're sweetened with dates. They're never too sweet, and but they also have a pretty good consistency because of the nuts.
Yeah. It works. And like they say, they're satiating, and you don't have to feel super guilty eating them or anything. And they're not full of crap.
They're not full of crap. And they're a protein bar, so you eat them when you have to eat something. Yeah. And they're sort of emergency food.
And they're small. It's a bar. Just keep them in your bag, and you can eat them whenever you need it.
I swear, that's hilarious, because my sister also loves them, and they offered to advertise on the Dork Forest, and I was like, are they any good? And but then they sent me a thing, and I was like, yes, I will advertise your stuff. And then I was like, I needed to ask what they were. That's so hilarious.
Yeah, super good. I'm into it.
Now I need to know that you like Stamps.com and Simple Contacts.
I love Stamps.com. I don't know what that is.
Right. How about Simple Contacts?
I hate contact lenses, so probably not. But you can have it. I'm sure that your fans should buy. I'm not advertising for you. Sorry.
Don't worry about it. You've done everything.
I don't know where I'm going with this.
You've done everything that you can. So I like the tahini smoothie.
Yeah.
Anita Sarkeesian, I have to have you back on so we can talk about something else. Because
let me go through a Wikipedia hole and then come back.
Exactly. So you guys, if you go to feministfrequency.com, that's where all the writings are. You can
videos, podcasts, the whole works.
Yeah, all of that. And at femfreq, FEMFREQ. Quee?
Yeah, that's
that got dirty all of a sudden. And at Anita Sarkeesian on Twitter, SARKEESIAN. Thank you so much for doing the show.
I loved it. Thanks,
Rangers. You know the rules out there. Take care of each other.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?